que te sientes? Ya estábamos terminando.
Voy a denunciarte, Antonio.
Llevas años sin pasarme nada.
Realmente, como me estaba contando antes, Débora, no hay nada. Había pocos, bueno, aquí hay más fotógrafos que fuera, chaval. ¿Ves?
Qué bien.
Todo lo rato. Voy a hacer lo mismo. ¿Qué te pasó, Joaquín?
Bueno, buenos días. Bueno, bienvenidos los que habéis llegado hoy a una nueva edición del Festival de San Sebastián. Como sabéis, vamos a presentar una de las películas que forman parte de la sección oficial este año, que es Los Tigres. Y para presentarla tenemos a parte importantísima de su equipo, más algunos que no han podido caber en una mesa ya muy multitudinaria y que también los mencionaré porque están por aquí sentados en primera fila. Del otro extremo de la mesa hasta aquí tenemos a Koldo Zuazua, que es productor de la película, Rafael Cobos, Alberto Rodríguez,
Screenwriter,
Bárbara,
Alberto
Lennie,
director, Bárbara,
Lennie,
the actress,
Antonio
de la Torre, the leading actor, and Farré, who is the producer of Movie Star Plus. And the front, we've got Silvia Costa, Joaquín Núñez, César Vicente, and Chemi Escone. If I'm not pronounced it correctly good, I pronounce it good. As it's a press conference with a lot of people, which is something that we always like, we can start with your questions. Here's the first question.
Hola, buenos días.
Hi, good morning. Congratulations for the film.
Bueno, me imagino que
I imagine
mucho esta pregunta,
you
pero
will
tengo
answer this
curiosidad por
question,
saber
but I want to
cómo ha
know
sido rodar
what it
bajo
was
agua,
like
esas escenas
shooting those scenes
subacuáticas.
underwater.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Bueno, pues,
Well,
gracias
thank you
por la película.
for the question.
La verdad es que ha sido
And
bastante
the
complicado.
truth, it was
porque,
quite complicated because it's something that had been done very little in Spain, especially in narrating so much. For example, in the scenes underwater, and we found out slowly but surely how we could do this because we didn't have a reference, because what we were convinced is a lot of the scenes, or a good section of the scenes, had to be shot at sea. We've ended up contacting with a crew that joined around Erik Borgensen, who's a Swedish scuba diver, who at the end of the day, it turns out his mother was from Malaga, and we got along very well because he speaks perfect Spanish from the outset. And what we found and discovered slowly but surely was how to shoot these scenes. It was very complicated to shoot. Part was shot in Algeciras, part in Huelva, another part in Alicante, and also another part in Ciudad Real and Albacete on the border, where the Guadiana starts. In that sense, it was quite it was quite complex and a lot of work, but very satisfactory as well. There's another question over here. First, the girl behind, and then you. Congratulations. I would like to know the idea of writing along with Rafael, writing this film, and Bárbara and Antonio. What were your main sources of inspiration apart from the script and the difficulties that you've had during the shooting of the film? Thank you. Shall I answer the question first? Well, the initial idea started with the petrochemical. I go on holidays to Huelva, and I was in front of the chemical plant oil plant, it was like a magnet that attracted you, as I've seen it for many, many years. And one day I said, how does this work? What happens here at this plant? And we started to see the profession of the professional scuba divers, and we thought it was very interesting, especially because we had no idea that they existed. And it's a world which is dangerous, and it's unknown. I think very little has been shot about these people, and we thought it was very attractive. The truth is that's where we started. But then what started to... the story of the both brothers, the drama between brother and sister, it's a film built at different levels. That's quite clear, as you can see. One is a bit more superficial, which can be a thriller, but underneath, I think we're telling a story, the truth be said. Hi, and good morning, and thank you. Sources of inspiration, you said. Well, basically, the script, that is to say, the screenplay, and there was a lot from where to draw from, to think, and a lot of questions that you could ask yourself. But I liked, like Alberto said, to find out about a universe that I didn't know. I like when, as a spectator, when films show me professions and places. I think Alberto has that. He focuses quite on little fields where he portrays something that's small, but something which is quite universal. There were a lot of rehearsals, much more than I could do along with Alberto and with all of them, because in the cast that's sitting down in the front row, this Scone is a world star in his field, and there was also a professional scuba diver. So we had to rehearse and work with everyone involved, and that was quite intensive, the rehearsal, and then the intimate work that one does at home, which depends upon the film. That varies. For me, it was a key element was getting into the universe that surrounds this brother and sister in this type of strange orphanage in which they live in, and this emotional austerity that they manage, and the difficulty they have of putting words to what happens to them, and above that, this strong love that unites them, and it's a love which it sometimes is even drives them without them knowing to the abyss. So therefore, in that universe, that's where we both got together and worked. I subscribe practically everything, Bárbara. Practically, some things you don't agree. No, it's not that I don't agree with some of that. No. Now, what Bárbara said, I agree. Okay. Obviously, I got it wrong and I made a mistake, but nevertheless, I subscribe everything that Bárbara said. Now, what I would like to add, and it happens to me quite a lot, in general, every time I play a role, I have the obsession of, first of all, to find a reference in reality. Much here that the characters that I portray, I don't want to seem like an actor. I remember a film, one I did with Alberto, Grupo Siete. They said, you look like a cop. And I thought, this is my, in general, every job I do, that's my obsession. And so, quite fortunately, we had scuba divers. Jesus del Moral, I want to mention, he's a scuba diver who played a role in the film, and with his way of Ed Joaquin as well, and the scuba diver team that came from Malta that helped us everything with La Mandanga, but to observe it and the way they think, we're talking about a collective, a group of people. There's about 1,000 of them in Spain, scuba divers. I don't know the exact number, but someone said they are underwater workers. These are people. It's incredible. It's worse than working in the mine, but it's working in those conditions. It's trying to understand how these people live, and I always try to vampire reality. But example, these people that I've mentioned, I think something stuck. But there's another question in the front. Hi, good morning. Irene Francine de Magavia. The truth is, the question that I had was for Bárbara, for Antonio. First of all, what attracted you to the script? Bárbara has already answered, and also Antonio, the difficulty of preparing those characters, whether it's so difficult. The truth is, you can see it on the screen. But as the answer is, you've already answered me. I'm going to ask, was there a casting? Had you already thought about these two actors? Yes, there was. Well, the truth is, in the case of Antonio, when we started the first version of the script, the character's name was Antonio, so we'd have thought about him from the outset, from the first moment. It's quite strange. I think we'd never done that before. It's the first time that we write thinking about a role for a specific actor. And Bárbara, after a lot of auditions, she was at Valeda and Antonio Serrano, the two casting directors. We did an audition in Madrid, but we knew each other, but but not working, but seeing each other in festivals and different events, which is working, but in a different way. But we didn't have the opportunity of working together. And the truth is, from the beginning, it was quite clear that it was a film for her to portray. So therefore, she was light years away from anybody else. Even light years away from the other actor. Finally, the truth is, we had worked. We did a very long audition. Another, a very long audition, but it was very beautiful. I remember it was a work session for a film that was called After. That I was very young to portray that role, but even though I did the audition and I spent some hours with them working, and at the end it was impossible for me to portray that role. And years later, this opportunity has arisen. There's a question here. Good morning, congratulations for the film. What drew my attention, and that's thrilled me. Montparnasse, for example, for my generation, it's quite obvious. Are you sure that the young peoples ring a bell of Montparnasse, Sandokan, and all of those characters? I don't think it rings a bell to them. Why? The young people know. Well, when the protagonists were young, in those years, it was very popular. A series was very popular. You're Italian? In Italy as well, obviously. Sandokan was the series. And kids, we used to play in being Sandokan. It's quite clear. So we can't hear the question. Not because of Salgari, but because of also the TV series. And it was a place in which it was part of their childhood that we went back to. It's a place where you feel comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time, because it's a certain moment, it has marked your life, but it's the territory of your childhood. That's the reason we use it. There's a question over here as well. Good morning, and congratulations for being here in San Sebastian. And I would like to ask you the following. The question, the plot has to do with the appearance of cocaine. The future, the uncertain future, and the precarious economy and easy money. The question is, how far would you go to survive, which is the question. Would that be the question of the film in the story? How far would I go? No, is that what you mean? Was that one of the messages? Limit situations, yes. Precarious economy and so on. Well, yesterday I was talking with Antonio about this. I think Antonio's character doesn't make a good decision from the beginning to the film of the film. And that's why he thought about the film. That's why it's the only way to make it. He's an idiot. He always makes wrong decisions. Sorry. No, he knew that beforehand. So anyway, it's all the same. But he follows the path exactly where he shouldn't go. He shouldn't walk down that lane or path. But both things are linked. I think that The problem is of drug trafficking has to do with easy money, but also with being in a precarious situation, obviously. Could that be a reflection of certain part of the society nowadays? Yes, it could be. But in any case, I think the film, we've tried for it to be almost outside. It's a type of, or left to the margin, it's a type of a motivation. It's a motivation mechanism to start up the characters, but the truth is that's what least interested us. In fact, you hardly see the people that are pressuring them, because we had the feeling if you enter into that world, unfortunately you enter into that world, it's going to be, what you're going to feel is going to be so terrible that is, you're going to feel that they're behind you all the time. That's what I thought it was interesting to stage it, that these are characters that don't even appear on the screen. There's a question here as well. Hi, good morning. Mario del Mundo Cine. Congratulations, first of all, for the film. My question is for Antonio and Bárbara. You've mentioned that you worked with a professional team, a diving team. Physically and mentally, what was for the scenes? How did you prepare? That required much more aspects that you're not used to when you act. Thank you. Go on, sister, you do it. You say something first. Well, now let's be serious. No, I want to tell the truth now. We prepared a course. We went through a course to have a real contact with professional scuba diving with the team. And then Antonio said they came from Malta, not from Mali, Malta. They were incredible. And that was of fundamental importance for us, because in the shoot I spent very little time underwater, but the truth is that it was starting to understand what we were doing, because these people are very quite particular. Here in San Sebastian, a lot of people live off the sea, but this goes through the identity of people. When part of your life is underwater, there's something that changes in you. So we did all of this training work in a swimming pool in Seville, which we spent some days where slowly but surely we went through different stages. First you go in with, and then you put your helmet, and then you put the tanks, then you walk, and then the helmet, and then you scuba dive. We did it better or worse depending on the day and the level of anxiety, because we put that helmet on which weighs 20 kilos, and you breathe very strange, and you trust an umbilical cable that helps you to breathe. There are many things that impress you quite a lot, I would say. And basically, that's how we trained. And then we got our captain's degree, and free. We got it all free. Bárbara and I are on holiday together, so we can drive boats. Well, I took a little boat, but nevertheless, this is what we did. It wasn't practical during the shooting of the film. It was very useful, but above all, to enter into the film and to enter into the universe of these two people who live with the sea under their skin, really, since they're kids. I practically agree with what Bárbara said, practically with everything. This is going to be the running joke, but Antonio's very relaxed, very calm. It was very difficult, very easy for him. I knew that you weren't going to shut up and you were going to say that. But there's a lot of anecdotes which he's launching that to me now. But I was singing before I put the helmet on and to start to breathe, and all of a sudden it happened. Just to put on the tanks, I started to breathe through my mouth, and all of a sudden I had an anxiety attack, and this is on the surface, and that was on the first day. The first day, it was a joke that we have, and he was going, this is easy. He puts a hat, and I started to breathe. And I said, I can't do this. Imagine, at that moment, I said, holy shit. I said, I hadn't even got into the water. I can't shoot this film. And we told him this. he consumed the oxygen in the tanks very quickly. And you know what happened was, your body has a memory. I made a film a year before, which I came here, which was called Los Destellos. My character has a myocardiopathy, and he couldn't breathe. And I spent a lot of 3 weeks doing this, breathing through my mouth and almost suffocating my mouth. So therefore, that feeling was, I had to overcome that, and that's what Bárbara said. Abigail Bort, who was the coordinator of the team, she calmed me down, and I did the Mandanga song as we sang. But we had to overcome that, and then what I did, apart from what Bárbara has explained, is shooting. Because when you shoot, you imagine you've gone to a shoot, you've got to be in a first mark, in the first position, but to put the first position underwater, it's like being an astronaut. It's very difficult, but you had to do it. You had to learn to relax so that the coordinators, the safety divers, could place you in the right place. That's a lot of work. I remember Bárbara and I was a sequence when she saves my life. It was in a pool, and they said action. Did he say action? And underwater, yes. It's quite tough to work underwater with all of the instruments that Bárbara was talking about. There's a question back here. Nerea from Movie Star Plus. I would like to know what's left after the film. Antonio said you almost took, this weekend you took a boat. No, that was a joke. You jumped on a boat now. What's left from the scuba diving, whether now you've become, it's your hobby, and what's become of that beautiful and strange and hostile relationship of brother and sister? You've just called Bárbara your sister. What is the film left in both of you? What do you say, brother? No, you, sister. No, you speak much better than I do. Well, what are you saying? Hi, Nerea, how are you? There was a lot left to me because a film which has marked me quite a lot. Well, now we laugh and it's all giggles, but the truth was it was very complex to shoot. It was very tough, quite arduous for the entire crew and cast. It was quite a lot of effort at all levels, creative, production, logistics. It was quite a hassle as a film, but when I finished, I have taken a year to shoot another film, that is to say. But there was something about, it was a big adventure. That is to say, the material, as you said, emotional material, was quite delicate between what was physical. From this film, it was the first shoot that I've had as a leading lady after my daughter was born, so therefore is getting into films again, and that moved a lot of things in me. The truth is, it's left a lot in me, quite significantly, and I want to see it again tonight, to re-encounter it and to see what happens to you when I see it again, apart from my link with Antonio, which we hadn't seen each other for many months, and there's something there that's there, which is already established as if a certain brotherhood between us. Having a tough time together unites you. That's true. We talked about that during the shooting of the film quite a lot, and I wanted to try it, but I did it halfway through the shoot. I don't remember when, or in Alicante. Because what we said before, everything we shot was in a swimming pool, in a place, the environment that you could shoot, and we were under control. But I wanted to try the feeling of scuba diving in water in Alicante. I remember we were shooting in La Ciudad de la Imagen at 30 meters. It was a very deep pool. It was really tough. It was salt water, and it had 4 times the level of sea water. And I did scuba dive with Abigail. I had that feeling, and it was very clear water, seeing a lot of stones and fish. And it was very good for me, because the relationship that I was having with water was, as I said before, the first contact. I was always, just like now, having to overcome and fighting against my anguish and anxiety. And I remember when I fall asleep that I was about to die, we also shot that. I had my glasses and water was coming into my goggles, and I spent half an hour, not because Alberto, but because to coordinate all of that. Wait, we've got it, we've got the shot. You've got to move that out, and the bubbles come up, and it was, and water was coming into my goggles, and I was going, well, I'm going to get out of the water because I can't do it. And I said, no, if I've got to go back down again to shoot the scene again. So I said, well, okay, I'll hang on. But I'll go back underwater one day, but not soon, not tomorrow. Another question here. Hi. First of all, congratulations. Over here, congratulations for the film. I would like to ask you more as regards Alberto, but obviously you can answer Bárbara as well as Antonia. Directing actors, Alberto, these scenes, how do you communicate, or how does these challenges in communicating these scenes to direct them underwater? And I know that it's a film. Your film, it's already a challenge as a film. What problems have you had, and how have you solved them? And also, I want to ask the question, when I was 21, I don't understand the Sandokan references that you said before. Many people my age, I'm sure, were very happy to see Scone on the screen, that I want to also congratulate him. Well, what we discovered when we made the film, that all the rules that you usually use in a surface or a shoot on land, it's useless, because you had to slowly but surely to learn is to plan everything before getting into the water. Everybody had to be quite clear what we were looking for. We had to draw the storyboard that we don't normally use one by one, as profiled and as clear as possible, to be very specific. You have to prepare everything beforehand, and when you go into the water, you've got to execute exactly what you've prepared. There's no time to do anything else. And even in those cases, 4 hours go by, and you've got shooting the same scene. The rules are different. Everything works completely different. We didn't know that beforehand, and the truth is, and we learned by trial and error. But all the work that we did at sea was quite complex, because we had to rehearse everything on land, and then the circumstances change. There's a lot of the film that's made 8 miles from the port, out in the open seas, completely open seas, and that alters a normal shoot quite a lot, the day-to-day of a normal shooting of a film. But basically, we prepared things before we did what we had to do, shooting the scenes. And there's the question back here. Adina Sefe from the F agency, congratulations for the film. It keeps you under tension throughout the film, because everything you do is quite dangerous, even their day-to-day work. And this profession, which looks quite glamorous, is all the contrary. It's something which is very difficult. And what drew my attention was the connection with the Roma at the Gypsy. Whether women working there, but it seems it's very a men's kind of thing. When you talk about shooting the film, you've talked less about the relationship between brother and sister, and the figure of the father who's absent but defines them completely. And I would like you to talk about that relationship of these traumas that they both have, and how you observe that, or how you've seen that. I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing to do with gypsies or the Roma people in the film. There's a character who's from Chipiona, and he has an accent from the south, very particular southern accent from the south, is being quite broad, but I don't think he's not from Chippewa. And if he was, it was no problem. But there's no connection there. I invented it. Sorry. Excuse me. The relationship between brother and sister. Well, as you've said, the relationship between brother and sister is conditioned by the relationship that they both have with their father. The paternal figure that's conditioned and that has made that the relationship they maintain is quite complex, because he treated both of them different with her and him. It has to do with pleasure in the space, that time that's never going to come back, where they were happy at that time, and they lived in a balanced situation. And then what they suffer and they undergo, because it's condition that's changed them, and it's generated the conflict that they have between them at the end of the day. There's a question here. Oscar. The guy with the glasses. A question for both producers here on the panel. In these times of platforms where films are quite foreseeable and classified, how have you addressed Los Tigres, which is a mixture of many things, of underwater adventure, a thriller, intrigue, the parent, brother and sister, just showing us a world, a way of living, or a way of life. What attracted you of the project to get involved in it, and how are you going to sell it, Los Tigres? What attracted us was exactly that. Movistar Plus, we see that there are many series, a lot of films, a lot of stimuli, and we wanted to have unique voices that dared to do not a standard or a specific mold or type of film. It's a portrait of characters, of precarious situation of a group of people. It's a story, an adventure story. It's a story between a brother and sister. So therefore it's a mixture, it's that voice, it's that look that Alberto and Cobos has done that attracts us. We don't know what to put a genre on the film. It's a thriller or a drama. We want the audience, we think the audience is smarter and much more open to receive stories, unique and different stories. And we see this continuously. We think that people are sick and tired of seeing the same things, and I dare to see everything. This film was a clear example of a unique voice which has a vocation of reaching a lot of people. This is what we expect with the film. I would like to mention that it's a film that invites me to Domingo Corral invites me to participate in, who's the alma mater of this project. He called me one after and he said, well, listen, after getting around, he said whether I felt like co-producing it with Alberto Rodríguez. I'm a fan of Alberto. I think from Bancos, his first short back in 1999. I couldn't say no to this proposal. There wasn't a script written yet. There was a vague idea about the memories of his childhood and his relationship with Matagon, with Huelva, and there's a type of plot, and we started to work with him along Movistar Plus with Alberto and Rafa and Juan Moreno and myself. And Los Tigres emerged. It was an incredible adventure and a continuous R&D research with the production development, and to try to continuously learn in a universe which was unbeknownst to us. We had done things on the sea, but on the sea, not under the water, which was complex, but getting underwater was quite an adventure, but very interesting. We're very satisfied with the result. There's another question here. Alberto, how do you build that powerful image of Bárbara, who's the angel, who within and outside the world guides the disaster of Antonio de la Torre, his character in the film? How do you build that image? She's very powerful. That's so powerful. That part has to do with the script and the character that we had proposed when we wrote it, and there's an important part that comes from Bárbara herself. How she addresses her character from the first reads of the script. I've worked with very few actresses and actors with the intuition that Bárbara has. The first intuition is normally, with all of the actors that I've worked with, I normally go in another direction, but she's very intuitive. And from the outset, I think that she constructed something that had a lot to do with the final result. It was very easy. We always had winds blowing in our favor. Any other further questions? Well, in order to finish, I would like to ask, there's something that's quite particular in the film, and that is that there are a lot of great thrillers that have transcended the history of films. But in the heart, it's a love story, but it's a romantic love story, and it's a love between a brother and a sister, which is complicated, where the cares of how they care to your life and precariousness is much more aggressive, and there's someone that you can resort to. But that's an important part of the film that a lot of colleagues have talked about this idea. But I would like Rafael as well as Alberto, could you talk about that, whether that was something that was quite unique about the project that attracted you? Because the truth is, it's quite unique. It's not the first time that you tell a great story between a brother and sister in a thriller, but it's not a regular thing. You have to think about a romantic love situation as a mechanism to activate the story. Yes, well, here was the contrary, shall we say, that the mechanism of the genre was going to be at the service of a relationship which was much deeper, which was a brother and sister, which was at a limit with a very peripheral and very on the borderline, for example, seeing the end of this complex relationship, which was love, but also toxic at the same time. At the end of the day, which was the heart and the core of the film, and the main part upon we build this more important story, which draws your attention, that links to that genre and all of those past scenes. When you enter into the thriller, which is almost childlike, for example, the memory that they have of their past childhood. I think that's quite unique in the film that we wanted to give value in the festival. If there are no further questions, thank you very much to all of you. Good luck to all of you in the Los Tigres.